meeting of the Warrant Committee, and thank you for coming on short notice. We have a couple of housekeeping responsibilities for the warrant itself before it's sent to the printer. Our first order of business ordinarily is to approve our minutes, but the chair will entertain a motion to waive the acceptance of the minutes under the circumstances. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Our first order of business is to review Article 1 of the warrant, which is the appropriation to be voted by the town meeting for a change in the solid waste and recycling collection. We have discussed this several times. There have been certain changes and amendments which you've all received from the town accountant that are referenced in the table, but the actual number really doesn't change. But because there has been a reallocation within the accounts, the line items themselves, we are required to revote this. Doug, is there any
I'll make a
questions?
motion to reopen our vote on Article 1.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on the reopening? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so any questions about this? As we've received this, it is going to press this week, so if there are any questions or any further changes, we need to discuss them immediately. If there aren't any, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt Article 1 submitted by the Select Board. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
So as I look at the revision, we're looking at an allocation of what the adjustments are, which we did not have before.
Right.
Okay. The information that we had gotten before was where the revenue was coming from.
Right.
And so now that's not in here, and it just references raised from the tax levy. So does that mean that we don't have to be as specific as we were, where we were identifying where these funds were coming from?
Oh, I think we want to still be very specific about it. I think we have that information. I don't believe that has changed.
Okay.
Because we have that and we've incorporated that into the comment.
Okay.
So that the town meeting can see that.
Right.
The issue here is where the allocation has come on the revisions that we had seen prior to this.
Right.
And that's the issue that we have. Again, the bottom line number really hasn't changed.
Okay.
And that's
so-
the key.
Okay, so for administrative purposes,
Right.
because I wrote this up.
Yes.
So I wanted to, I just have to, the comment doesn't change? It
Comment
just-
doesn't change.
Just this part of it then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly right. No, the comment was very well done, by the way. If there are any other questions, go ahead, Clint. Doug, do you?
Was this the one what they were talking about, the sticker prices or the, not trash, but the,
Recycling.
was it the,
No.
This was to pay for the increased costs of the
trash recycling. Right.
Part of it is paid
No.
by increases of
the yard, okay, all right, that's the one.
next one's yard.
That's the next one.
Thank you.
So that's, yeah. So Article 1, to see what sum of money the town will vote to amend appropriations voted by the May 2019 annual town meeting in order to offset the increase in solid waste and recycling collection and disposal costs for the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2019, and to determine how said appropriation shall be raised, whether by transfer from available funds or otherwise, and to act on anything related thereto. Recommended that the town vote to amend the following appropriations voted by the 2019 annual town meeting by the articles referenced in the table below, 12-month period beginning July 1, 2019. As article table as presented, total amendment $580,727, and that to said appropriation, the sum of $50,000 be appropriated from funds released from the overlay reserve, and $530,727 be raised from the tax levy. If we have no other questions, the chair will entertain a motion to accept and approve this. Do we have a second? Any questions? All in favor? Thank you very much. Article 2, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. Here we have, again, very little that has changed in terms of our recommendation. We have this direct table here that has been supplied with slightly modified numbers from the ones that we initially reviewed. Are there any questions? Again, the bottom line number is just about is identical. So,
Just a point of order, I'll move to open the vote on Article 2 for reconsidering.
do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Question, I have a
Yes.
discussion.
Yeah.
So, The
No,
question.
this is just to
This is
open
just to
it.
open
Alright,
up the debate.
Sorry.
Yeah, right, okay, good.
We have a parliamentary
That's-
Yes,
procedure we
which
have
is
to
Steve's
do.
doing exactly the right thing.
He
Thank you
is.
very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we can have discussion on this
Let it
point.
No,
Clinton, let it rip.
Thank you. So, who did this one?
Who wrote the comment?
I
Yes.
did the comments.
So were the fees falling on the residents themselves with,
So when,
so they're gonna increase it, right?
it's increasing, when, I forget his name, Chase,
Chase Berkeley.
Mr. Berkeley came in,
Yeah.
he told us that they had this gap of 150.
Right.
And the article basically said like, we'll raise it. And we talked about whether or not they might take some money from the reserves that they had built up over the last 3 years, which if I recall was almost 100.
38,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
138,000, that's
130, yeah,
right.
right.
So it looks like they did that, which I think is great.
They
They
offset
took
it.
a portion of
They
it.
took,
portion
yeah,
of it,
they
they
took
did not take the
50,000 out of
whole
it,
thing out.
so they didn't exhaust
That
the
would be
fund.
bad.
Yeah,
Well,
it
Right.
took 3 years to build that up, so.
Yeah, right,
Right.
exactly.
So that's the only difference that I think exists here, is
Right.
that there's 50K that's not going to be passed on to us in the form of a bond or some other debt.
Raising the rates for the stormwater fee.
But they would have been higher had
Oh,
they
right,
not
right,
taken the
right, right.
Right.
So they're
50,000
still being
out.
raised, but they're not being raised as much.
As much, quite.
Correct.
Yeah, they took a little bit out of the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. They didn't exhaust it, they just they took some out, so.
Do we have,
Which
do we
is
have those rates?
sensible.
Sorry, excuse me.
We
Do
did,
have- Do we have those like numbers
The
for each
difference,
resident?
we
Yeah.
did when it was the whole 150.
Right.
I didn't.
I don't have
They
it.
would
We
go
had those,
down
he
and
did go
minuscule
through those. I do have them in my notes, and we'll have them in the
Not much.
minutes.
It's and then it's a
pennies.
tiered
It was like
system.
$2.37
Yeah.
versus 180 something.
Yeah, it's
I wanna say.
189
No.
versus 237.
No, so before was, don't quote me on this.
Yeah.
It was around what, $1.80?
Yep.
And
For the lowest tier.
And it was
And
going
if we had to charge back the whole 150, it was gonna be like 237, but we don't have the new,
Rates.
Rates.
per whatever.
Yeah.
And it's different per square footage depending on how, if you have a larger lot,
Exactly
you pay
right.
more
Right.
per square foot than you do for somebody that does not have.
And
space.
everybody pays, the not-for-profits, the churches,
Correct.
everybody
Yeah.
pays this as part of their.
Important piece.
Right, right, which, so this is very,
It's a federal
it's universal, right. Scott?
I got a question. The stormwater fund, what are those funds supposed to be used for? Were they supposed to be used to improve the storm sewers? So it's
Treatment.
the
It's
treatment,
all
or are
part
they
of the
supposed to be used for
MWRA
trash?
treatments for runoff of one sort or another, but stormwater particularly, because that's everywhere.
So why are we using this for real estate? I'm for landscape, for trash. Why are we using it for that?
The
Yard
yard
waste.
waste comes under the stormwater fee, not the solid waste.
Right.
Correct.
Right, but what does that have to do with improving the sewers?
It doesn't,
It
just the
doesn't, but it
wa-
never was supposed to be improving the sewers.
Oh, that's
It's
what
a-
I was told it
It's a
was.
fee that you pay so that we can not only treat the water, but make sure we're sweeping the streets, we're
Right.
making sure that we're cleaning up all the yard waste that would be left just running down the street. How many of your neighbors do you see blowing their leaves into the street?
None.
Whoa,
Well,
I see,
I see
I see a
some.
few, yeah.
As
I
part
see
of-
some.
Yeah, as I understand it, as part of the increased costs of the solid waste and recycling, the yard waste
They all have
portion of that sort of three categories comes under stormwater, not the yard waste, and that's the way the stormwater
Yeah, but it's,
Enterprise
legislation
fund
was
works.
made, that's how the invoice was
Federal
done.
piece,
it's for testing brooks and everything else for pollution.
Yeah.
That
The,
too, right.
right?
Do the cleaning of the drains
Water
Yep,
quality, yeah.
it's to keep
So
the raw
it does a
water
lot.
flowing into the-
for the water systems,
All right.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's part of the federal mandate.
They can talk about that
has
at the
it, so
town
that's why they
meeting
have to
too,
put
as far
it
as
there.
Well, I'm sure they will. I mean, there are many people who are concerned about this. Okay, if we have no further discussion, the article we're voting and the recommendation is to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate to the Stormwater Enterprise Fund for the increase in yard waste collection and processing costs of the 12-month period beginning July 1, 2019, in addition to the sum voted by the May 2019 annual town meeting under Article 18, to determine how said appropriation shall be raised, whether by transfer from available funds or otherwise, and to act on anything related thereto. Recommended that the town vote to increase the budget appropriation for the Stormwater Enterprise Fund by $150,000, and that $150,000 be raised and appropriated as follows, set forward in this table as you see before you, totaling revised 2020 appropriation, $1,008,127, increased by $150,000. Chair will entertain a motion to
So moved.
accept.
Second.
Any other discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So as a blanket, then, the chair will entertain a motion to approve all recommendations in the warrant as we have approved to be presented to the town meeting. We have a second. This is the copy this is basically everything that you have all put together with the recommendations. So this is a formality that I like to make sure that we do just to cover ourselves in case we have a question that have we considered and have we voted all the recommendations. This one will vote all the recommendations in total so that we're covered parliamentarily. So we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. It's passed. In terms of other housekeeping that we have, we will begin the planning for the budget for the next fiscal year. There are going to be a number of very difficult decisions that we're going to have to make next year because we have a revenue problem. We don't have an expense problem. There are plenty of expenses. We have a revenue problem that I think we all recognize. We started to talk about it early in our session, and there is going to be some real considerations that we're going to have to make for the schools, for the firehouse construction, which is coming forward, and for just general operations. I'm optimistic we don't have another February surprise like we had last year with the health insurance premiums and the dramatic increase. I understand that there have been negotiations with the municipal employees, with the teachers. It is not an easy subject to broach. It is not a pleasant subject to broach, but it is one that we're going to have to face in addition to the larger nuts that we're going to have to look at, the schools and the firehouses. But it's going to make for a busy fall. But again, I thank you very much for getting this done for the December town meeting. John?
George, isn't the firehouses first?
The firehouse is the first one we're going to be, is coming forward because they believe they have plans.
Before the school, right?
Oh, yeah, the schools are in process. They're at a relatively earlier stage than the firehouses, but it's coming up very rapidly because some of us went to the schools and those kids are going to be sitting on each other's laps before too long.
I know, but it'll be 8 or 9 years before they even could build the school.
That's a big problem.
So all those people that
That's the
are
building.
overcrowded now,
They'll be graduated by the
Right.
time it's out. That's an argument for doing nothing. However, between A and B, you've got a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort and a lot of unhappy people.
And some options.
And there are other options. I mean, nobody says you have to build a new school from the ground up.
Right.
I mean, there are many options.
lot of options
And
out there.
and I think what our job is, and I think we have incredible creativity around this table, just because it's such a remarkable cross-section of the town, is to encourage that. You don't have to build. I don't think we need to build a new school. I don't know where you'd put it. A, I don't know where you'd put it. B, do you really want to go through the subject of redistricting? My father was a Boston school teacher in the 70s. That was a nightmare. I don't ever want to live through anything like that. But the idea that we can do something that will accommodate the residents of the town and these kids who deserve, not to be having classes in broom closets. There's something that we can do, and I think, again, we have to use our heads because I think that, two heads are better than one, and around this table, my God, we have a hydra, so I think this is a very good thing. But you're exactly right. The firehouse is something that we're going to confront.
That's already in process.
It's in process. The schools have to ramp it up. I in fact, made this comment to Glenn Pavlicek. This is something we should have been talking about 3 years ago. And it just accelerated to the point that you have to do something about it now. So that's what we're going to have to look forward to in the next several meetings. We are scheduled to meet on the 18th of November. I thank you very much for coming out. We'll publish all of our minutes in advance of that meeting. Now that Lynn needs a couple of days off after putting all this together,
Like go
so
on vacation.
she actually deserves a little bit of a vacation. But that'll come after we submit this to the printer, and I think we're pretty well along with that. So that's
It'll be the
really,
last Thursday of the month off. How about that?
yeah. Nice guy, and the Friday too.
Oh,
All
that's
right,
hilarious.
is there any new business that we have to consider before we adjourn? Any questions anybody has? Again, I thank you very much for coming out. It's really terrific. I'm very grateful to you all. And the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second.
Thank you for
Any discussion? If none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Good night. Good night. Thank you. Yes, sir.